It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Schick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Ducky.
Much better now.
Yes.
Every time I say hello, I expect somebody to go, "Hi, Dr. Nick."
And it almost sounded like you were doing a Dr. Nick impression on this one, and that's why I started laughing. Honestly.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, man.
Questionable accent and all.
Hope everybody out there is doing okay. I do apologize for the technical difficulties we had last week, but they were unavoidable. But we're back this week, and so what's been going on your corner of the galaxy?
We've got all of our electronic ducks in a row, finally. Yay.
Yay.
Huzzah.
Well, gosh. Well, other than doing homework for this week, which has been an absolute delight because of what we're talking about this week and its awesomeness, actually spotted a documentary. I don't know. I mean, it's a documentary, but I don't know that it was intended to necessarily be all that informative because, I mean, it's really only an hour long. It's on Netflix, by the way, and it is about Betty White.
Oh.
And so, yeah, it's a big old love fest, of course, because freaking Betty White is awesome. So it's hard for it not to be a love fest. But yeah, there's a lot of interest. She's had a really interesting career for sure.
Mm-hmm.
She's done a lot of stuff. She's done way more stuff than most people these days can even imagine. I mean, it's some of the stuff. I mean, because she got into TV right at the beginning, basically.
Yeah.
And I mean, what people don't realize is having a TV show back then was very different. I believe what they said was that the show that she was on ran 6 days a week, and it was like 5 hours a day on air the whole time. Yeah. It's just insane. I mean, which is honestly probably closer to what radio was like, because essentially that's what they just did, was because that's all they knew how to do. So they're like, okay, well, it's basically just radio with a camera. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, and she did that for a long time. And honestly, she got producer credit for stuff because she was actually doing that job. So, I mean, we had flashes of the Desilu stuff we talked about a few weeks ago. She was doing that stuff before Lucy was. So, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Lucy, but yeah, I mean, and nobody even watching her on TV, nobody ever thought that she was doing that much stuff behind the scenes. So, yeah, it's really awesome.
I'll have to track that one down.
Mm-hmm. What'd you watch that on?
Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Just go in there and search for Betty White. I'm betting it'll pop right up.
Okay.
Well, golly, I have so much to babble about. I don't know where to start. First, I want to apologize. I have missed a couple of shows. I thought January would be my hell month of the year, but it's just followed me right into February. So, yeah. I mean, if this is the way the year's gonna go, I'm just gonna go to sleep and wake me up on Christmas. Okay.
But then you'll
I'm
miss
done.
Halloween.
Right. 2020 is not my year so far. Um, yeah, and I also found out when I get sick with like the flu and have a high fever, I need to hide my credit cards.
Oh,
I've gotten some pretty interesting packages in, and a lot of it, it's like, wow, what the hell was I thinking?
what channels are you watching?
It's all like Amazon, but yeah, they have some weird stuff on Amazon. I mean, anything you can think of, Amazon's got like 20 versions of it. You know?
True,
So,
true.
but a couple of the good things I did wind up buying, though, I backed a couple of Kickstarters. One was Madeline's, of course. She offered chocolate. I mean, books were good enough, but you throw chocolate in on that, and it's like, I'm sold. I'm there. So if you guys haven't got in on that, I don't know if there's any of that left.
Oh, by the time this episode
You
drops,
bought it
it'll be
all.
over.
Yeah.
Honestly, but yeah.
But she's like smashed all of her stretch goals.
Yep.
So I think she's printing here in North America, like she had talked about. But the second one I had backed was Jimmy. I always pronounce his last name wrong.
Palmiotti.
Palmiotti. They did one called Creator-Owned Heroes Collection.
Mhm.
And it was a digital comic, which, of course, it's closed out now. But I also wound up getting a hard copy that'll be signed by him. I think they give you a personal couple of comics out of their own collection, and it was just a really good deal. So I'm happy with that purchase. You know.
I backed that one too.
That's cool.
If you're following him on Twitter, you probably saw him the last few weeks. He has a rather impressive comic collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did pump this one kind of hard on Twitter.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of big names attached to it. So it was like, I mean, and kind of like Madeline's, the tiers that they offered, their reward pledges and stuff, were just like cheap, and, you know, you got a lot of stuff for not a lot of money. So they really
cool.
did get that. Yep. Yeah, it's a lot cooler than canned bread.
And how would you know, Liz?
You haven't even tried that canned bread, have you?
Oh, no, I haven't, you know. And if you're going to make bread, you call it BM. Really? You're going to put something brown in a can and call it BM?
No, I'm not, personally. I wouldn't do that at all.
So I got to looking, and apparently I only saw like the brown bread, but they've got like raisin bread and cinnamon. I mean, they've got all kinds of bread. And my British friends were actually telling me that's pretty popular over there. And it was like, really? I canned bread.
You know, they eat Marmite, so what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. But I know it's kind of not nerd topic, but
When has
makeup
that ever
artists.
stopped us?
Right. One of my makeup artists released a mystery box. And, of course, you know, like I said, I was sick that day. And I went on Twitter and I had saw that a bunch of people were having problems buying this box, you know. So I was like, well, yeah, I'll just go see it. I didn't want it, you know. So I went on the website, put it in the shopping cart, and it's like, well, I'm not having any problems.
Lord.
So I wound up buying it, but it's kind of cool because one of the palettes that came into it, Jeffree Star just like retired the palette, and people have been selling these for like anywhere from $150, $200, and that's the palette that came in the mystery box. So it's like double what I paid for it. It's like, yay.
Yeah, now you can put it on eBay and get your money back.
Right, yeah. Well, see,
Almost makes up for the canned bread.
Almost.
I'm gonna wait because now that he's apparently what he did, he took the last of what was in stock and threw it in the mystery boxes. Some people got the palette, some people got a different palette and everything else. So I'm gonna wait because eyeshadow has a longer shelf life than most makeup, and I'm gonna wait till all these people use their palettes, and then when there's none left, hey, I have a brand new one in the box with the bubble wrap. So.
She's still doing that with all of her Harley Quinn stuff too. But anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna sell it when it's worth a shitload of money. Oh no, it could be worth more. No, wait, I'm gonna wait some more. It could be worth more. Yeah.
The good thing about this is although it's good quality, I don't wear the colors that are in there. I mean, it's called an alien palette, so you can imagine the colors that are in there. So it's not really my color palette. So I definitely will get rid of it because it should be used because it is good quality.
That's a Martian red and
She
there's like
Venus
lime green and and like one's called Illuminati or Illuminati.
No, you said it right both times.
Yeah. Well, it's T at the end instead of like it really is, T for drama. So, like I said, they're pretty colors. I just usually tend to stay more neutral. So,
Me too.
I'll definitely get rid of it. Yeah, right? Well, since I have blue eyes, I'm really limited on the colors I can wear. So. Yep. Well, and plus, I came from the age. Do you guys remember the Drew Carey show?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mimi?
Mimi?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To this day, I still can't even look at blue eyeshadow and not think of her. So I stick with the colors that I know look good, and I'm not Mimi. Although I am a Mimi now with my grandbaby.
Maybe that name being adopted was on purpose. Who knows?
Even more reason to stay away from the blue eyeshadow. Oh, but one other thing. Netflix.
Just one more thing.
Just one more thing. Netflix did just release Lock and Key.
Yes.
It's pretty good. I've only seen part of the first episode because somebody told me about this. It's a Dutch horror TV series, and it's called Ares, or Eris, but it's spelled like Ares, like the god of war. Man, this stuff is freaky. What got me interested is people were like, I can't even finish watching it because it's so creepy and it scared me so bad. I can't finish watching it because it's kind of cornball.
Ooh,
it's like,
shots fired.
Step on up.
Well, they've done a really good job of taking any kind of cheesy horror, any gimmick that they use in a horror show, it's in here. They go for the grotesque and shocking. And to me, when a movie intentionally does that, I don't find it either gross or shocking, because it feels intentional, which is what a lot of this show reminds me of. It's trying too hard to be creepy and scary that it's just like, eh. If you've seen Hostel, you've seen this show. It's kind of the same creepy, gory, although I think these girls are more consensual, but yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's kind of like American Horror Story, and Hostel had a baby, and it would be this show called Ares.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was first sent a clip of it, though, the trailer looks good, but it was, I guess, in Dutch. So it was like, man, I hope this isn't a whole subtitle. I've got to read the movie kind of thing. And it's not. It's in English. So. But if you like horror, I wouldn't waste your time. If you scare easily, you might like it.
Well, if it's like Hostel,
Yeah. Like I said, it's like that one really wasn't scary to me. It was kind of gross. you know?
But
And
Hostel?
yeah,
Yeah, it was bad.
yeah,
You talk about torture porn. That's torture porn.
yeah. And that's what some of this is too. It's like a secret elite society, and they, of course you get hazed and that kind of stuff to get in, and bloodbaths, and the normal horror cheesy stuff.
Well, I mean, we literally saw that in the second one.
Yeah,
The bloodbath, yes.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. A lot of this, if they were going for shocking, the stuff has been done. So to me, it's, I'm waiting for something good and scary to come along, and it's been a while.
Well, I think we got Halloween Kills coming out later this year. Woohoo!
There you go.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
I'm sure there's something before then, but I don't know. I hadn't looked that far ahead.
Yeah.
We'll do that show later on.
Yeah.
Like I said, most of the stuff that it's the scariest thing. The Nun thing, it was like, please. Dolls are just creepy, so you're going for the cheap thrill making a movie about a doll anyways, But, yeah, I'm not scared of dolls.
Right. A
Clowns.
doll is just an excuse to have a jump scare. It's just a distraction so you can jump scare somebody. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Meh.
And it is a natural phobia for some people just to be freaked out by dolls. So I think that's what they're playing on. Kind of like John Goodman's arachnophobia. I think that was more meant to play on people's fear of spiders than it to be a... Was that supposed to be scary, or?
Which is funny.
That was more a comedy.
Which is funny because people who are actually scared of spiders are never, ever, ever going to go watch a movie like that. I mean, come on.
No.
Yeah.
That's like me and snakes. Uh-uh.
You never did see snakes on a plane because of that, did you?
No. Nope.
Or Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, see, that's what freaked me out. Yeah, that's probably started my fear of snakes. That, and there used to be a TV show called Lonesome Dove, and it was like a Western, and this guy's crossing like this creek thing, and his horse gets spooked and rears up and throws him off the horse. Well, when he comes up, he's got like 50 water moskins attached to him. So ever since it was like, nope.
So you've never seen a snake in real life, have you?
Oh, yeah. I grew
Okay.
up in the country.
Okay.
See, and that's part of the problem. I grew up in the country. There's not a lot of good snakes out in the country, Good snake was a dead snake, and even then you didn't play with it. Because they could still have venom, and, so.
Pretty sure that's not how venom works, but okay.
Yeah. The rattlesnake will keep its venoms in its fangs.
That's fine. Don't touch the fangs.
That's what I'm saying. You don't play with it. Just leave it the hell alone.
There's 98% of the rest of that snake you can play with, though, because the fangs are dead end. It's the rattly part you want to play with anyway. That's at the other end.
Oh.
Okay.
No. I said burn
It's
it.
not? The rattlesnake at the other end? Okay.
See, and that goes for
Learn
like
something new every
earthworms
day.
and caterpillars and anything long like that. No. But crazy thing is, I'm fine with lizards. I love lizards. But snakes, no.
Yeah, that's
Do you run to get out of the way of snails?
I don't like them either, but they're okay,
They're okay.
Yeah. But Phil come inside with like a little garden snake. And he's like, look. And it's like, no, I will trip the hell out. Like knock out a small child trying to run away.
I'm going to leave that one alone.
It would be best.
And they used to have snakes for pets. I came in one day and there's a snake in my bathtub, like trying to crawl up out of the bathtub. So I go flying. Now my back door, I've got like 6 steps. My feet never even touched a single step. My best friend is sitting on the steps. I fly over her head, and all I can get out is snake. Well, he idiot was giving his snake a bath, and left it in there. So the snake was just going to go roaming. So I told him, no, 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 no. In the cage or out of the house.
What kind of cage do you put a snake in? I mean, they can just slither through between the bars. I mean, come on.
No, these are glass. They have reptile tanks. Yeah. But they had to get special tops because he didn't, and the snake was pretty smart and pushed the top off. So you have to actually get the tops that go with the reptile tank.
Either that or nail the snake into the tank.
Yeah. Or just don't get a snake.
Well, I guess if you want to be all crazy about it, go for it. But.
Yeah,
so there's no need for that.
Get a snakeless tank.
Yeah.
So
They like being outside, like 200 feet away from me.
Only feet, huh?
Well, miles, yard, yeah, whatever. If I can't see it, we're cool.
Les, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
how do I follow?
Good night, everybody.
Yeah. Did you find any good snakes?
That's the default. Right. Defend snakes. Let's go.
Snakes are good. Snakes are American.
Now I see that. I'm a slippery little snake.
I attended a wrestling match this past week in the city of Richardson.
Who did you battle?
It was me versus Jake the Snake.
And if it's in Texas, it was wrestling, not wrestling.
It's wrestling.
It's wrestling.
I spoke of them before. The organization SOAR, SOAR, had what they called SOAR Mania in the city, at the city of Richardson. And this was in the big display room for the comic book conventions, and of course it has other organizations there. And I bet we had 10 matches that night. It was a lot of fun. Once again, the public could heckle the wrestlers could heckle the public. Fun was had by all. And it was just amazing to watch. These guys are good. They're not, to me, I'm sorry, but they're not the level of WWE. Some of them are, but for the most part, no. And just had a couple of seats on the second row and took it all in. We were near the corner of the villains, so it was also fun to give them a mouthing.
Yeah, that's your prime heckling seats right there.
Oh, to me it's perfect. And of course it was, well, sit wherever you want. And that's where we plopped down. The other thing this week, I caught a film on, it was probably Netflix, called First Man into Space. This was a 1959 sci-fi movie. And what is dear to me here is this was the first science fiction movie I went to see by myself at a movie theater. I was 8 years old at the time. We were on vacation in Valley City, North Dakota. The movie theater was on the other half block of where my grandparents lived. So I could just go around, down the alley and around the corner to the theater. And this one spooked me at that age. But it was kind of interesting. a pilot was flying the Y-13 and decided he was going to take this rocket-propelled flying craft into space, and he did. He took it to like 250 miles above the Earth, but he returned as a monster, and it was fun. It's one to watch. It's if you're drinking a beer, it's one to make fun of. So I recommend it. It was just fun to reminisce and see what else I could find, of course, on Netflix, which I then spent like 6 hours watching crappy movies.
Mm-hmm.
But that
It's easy
was
to
kind
fall
of,
down the rabbit hole, isn't it?
oh, it's way too easy. There's some series there that I don't want to get near because I know I'll end up watching every frickin' second of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Les's rabbit hole. The rabbit has 3 heads.
And it looks like Donnie Darko.
I was about to say one of them was Rosie Greer, right?
Yeah. And Ray Milland.
And Ray Milland.
Or as they thought, Beeblebrox.
Oh, God. All right. I'm not sure how I can follow that, but I'll try. In addition to some prep work, some future episodes, I actually pulled out a old collection that I hadn't read in a while, and I saw it and was like, oh, you know what? I wouldn't mind reading this again. And it's Jack Kirby's The Losers. This collects like the 10 issues that he wrote and drew. And if you're not familiar with The Losers, this was a team that was put together of different members of the armed forces. Trying to remember names right now. It was like Captain Storm, Johnny Cloud, Gunner and Sarge.
Gunner and Sarge, yeah.
And this was part of the war book, Our Fighting Forces, that was done back by DC back in this would be the early 70s when he did it. But it was kind of cool, kind of going back and reading some of these because it's kind of a bygone era. It's just kind of a different take of kind of different stories, war stories. Because I mean, there's stuff that's done now today that it has kind of a different vibe to it than what was back there. And it was kind of cool reading these again, and the collection has introduction by Neil Gaiman. And it was kind of fun going back and reading that again because he talked about when he was younger, he avoided war comics. And then he saw that Kirby was doing these, and he was like, oh, I'm still going to stay away. But it was painful for him to do it because he was a big Kirby fan. And then he talks about years later going back and reading these stories and talking about how great they are. And the funny thing is about going back and reading these stories again is seeing the covers, because this collection, obviously, like most collections, they include the covers. And these were either done by Ernie Chua, or now known as Ernie Chan, who did a lot of DC covers in the 70s. Love his work. Between him and Nick Hardy's covers were just so freaking incredible. Or they were done by Joe Kubert. And of course, if you're in the comics, that's a name you're familiar with, so I don't have to explain anything there. But it was just so funny how many have a similar theme of the 4 of them unsuspectingly about to walk into a trap of Nazis. They're about to go into a room, and then everything's okay, and there's Nazis right there just waiting for them to come in. It's almost like every cover. I was like, what the hell is this? It was kind of amazing how that theme it was literally, I mean, it wasn't copied and paste. They were all different, of course, but it was just kind of the same. I don't want to say theme, but it's just kind of the same thing. I was like, wow, how come I didn't notice that before, and how come no one else caught on to this? But if you ever get a chance to get this, and you like reading Kirby's stories, I definitely recommend picking it up.
Cool.
That does sound like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of course, some of the stuff that was done back then can't be done now. So, and once you read some of those stories, you'll understand. But yeah, I mean, it's just a different time. But it was also almost 50 years ago. So yeah, things kind of changed. Okay, before we get into this week's discussion, I do want to point out that we do have our monthly meet and gab approaching here. It's not too far away. Saturday, March 14th. Be at Wing City like we always do, and that's located at 1456 Beltline Road in Garland, Texas. Zip 75044. So if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, like to come meet us and hang out with us and have some good food and some great conversation about all things that are going on in the geek universe, we highly recommend that you come join us. We always have a blast doing these. It'll be at 7 o'clock. There's information already posted on the website, www.thefellowshipofgeeks.net. Definitely need to check to see if the Facebook event is set up. I'm not sure, but it definitely will be by the time this episode drops, if it hasn't been already. But we would love to meet you and hang out with you for a couple hours. We also take our donations for the charity that we're working with, Comic Books for Kids, to getting comics to kids that are in hospitals and cancer centers. So if you have some all-age or teen books you'd like to donate that are in new or like new condition, please bring them. We will gladly take them and make sure they get to the proper people so we can spread a little joy to kids' lives. If you'd like to make a financial donation to the charity, we do recommend that you go to cb4k.org. And there's a PayPal link there that you can send a donation, and the funds go to help ship the books to hospitals across the United States and in Canada. We also have a link on our website. There's a page on our website for the charity. In addition to some of the other stuff that they sell that's exclusive to them, there's a couple books that have variant covers. Most recent one is supposed to be coming out here real soon if it's not available now. It's a C2E2 convention variant cover of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, number 123, I believe is the number. It has unproduced art by Kevin Eastman, the co-creator of the Turtles, donated to the charity, which is really cool. It's a great looking cover too. Also, I believe they're releasing their second coloring book that has a lot of really cool names in the comic book industry that's donating original art for the coloring books. Most recent one I saw just within the last day or so was Stan Sakai, co-creator of Usagi Yojimbo. So he's donating some art for the coloring book. So that's cool. So definitely get on that. And once again, all the funds go to the charity to ship the books across to all the hospitals and cancer centers. So, all right. We are continuing our humor comedy month, although I think this is going to be a little bit longer than a month, but that's okay. With this week, we're actually devoting this episode to a legend in comedy, I think. One, Mel Brooks. So many awesome film comedies. He's done some TV work. And it really kind of started in the early 50s with, was it Your Show Shows?
Yes.
As a writer with Carl Reiner, and that between the two of them came up with one of their most popular skits, the 2,000-Year-Old Man.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of wanted to take a little bit of a look back at his career and kind of have some fun with this one. So with that, who would like to go first? Kind of give their thoughts and all.
Well, I will start. I remember seeing some of the early shows that Brooks was involved in, but I did not have him come to the forefront for me till his first major, The Producers. This version was Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder.
Oh yeah.
And it was so funny to see these characters go from sublime to frantic in split seconds. The premise, of course, has been looked at so many ways. And the thought of the play being Springtime for Hitler just struck me as funny as hell. He covered it. Mel Brooks wrote it in such a satirical yet sympathetic way. It was just spot on for that time frame. And this comedy thought would project forward into so many of his other movies. The second one I saw was Blazing Saddles. A friend of mine said, "Let's go, you'll love this movie." And I sat down, and when they started playing the theme music sung by Frankie Lane, I looked at my friend, I said, "What the hell did you do? Did you bring me to a damn Western?" And he said, "Just sit tight." And once again, the laughs were extremely funny. The puns were so good. Let me extend this Laurel and Hardy handshake. It just still makes me laugh. He's released so many good things for people to see. The 12 Chairs was one that I had to go back and see at a program at one of the theaters. They said for one night only type deal. Maybe it was a Friday night special that they were running. That one was pretty solid itself. And you look at a lot of his cast and you see what Mad Magazine refers to as the usual bunch of idiots. The actors were just so good and so funny. I really don't have much of a problem with his thoughts and ideas There are some that I wish he would have expanded on, but that's neither here nor there. What did you folks think of? Oh, Blazing Saddles. Let's go with that.
I thought Blazing Saddles was hilarious. They had that one on TV not too long ago, and that was even one that Phil will watch and laugh with me. Oh. I think that's probably what I know him best by. That, and of course, we've talked about Young Frankenstein on the show before. And didn't he also co-create Get Smart?
He did.
Yes.
Yep. I think that was probably my favorite show by him.
Yeah, Get Smart. Great stuff.
That was good.
Especially if you happen to be like a fan of the James Bond movies.
Yeah.
That if you're a fan of those, then that's aimed right at you.
Yeah.
And to be able to keep that up for, 5 seasons that was on?
Yeah, something like that.
Even longer in reruns. That's when
sure.
They usually I'm wanting to say, see, my grandmother lived here in Dallas and we lived in Colorado. And it's like anytime we came down here, Dallas had like I guess it was after school cartoons. I guess. And Get Smart, I don't know if it came on after that or if it came on during that, but it was just something everybody could sit down and watch and laugh. And of course, now that I'm older, there's jokes that I get better.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
It's funny, over, I guess, more recent years, I've noticed how many more Spy spoofs were out back during that time. I mean, obviously I knew of, like, Our Man Flint, and you had some of these other ones. I just saw one recently, and I only knew it because of it being parodied on, I'm trying to remember if it was Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was a film called 007 or Operation Kid Brother, and it actually stars, I think, Neil Connery, Sean's younger brother.
Oh, God, really?
And actually has Lois Maxwell and Bernard Lee in the film, too.
Oh, wow.
It's horrible.
I'm sure.
It's a parody. It is horrible. But you look at him and you go, yeah, he's Sean's brother. You can see. But yeah, Get Smart was on a different scale. There is that whole thing of, when you're younger, you got the visual jokes and all that, and then you get older, and some of the other stuff starts to make, it kind of kicks in a different gear.
mm-hmm.
I've never seen the 12 Chairs. I hate to say that. I have not seen that one. That and that one and Life Stinks are the only Mel Brooks films I've not seen. But the other ones I've seen. and what comment there, Mike?
If you were to seek my advice on those two, those are the two to skip.
Yeah,
Because
I definitely want to see 12 Chairs, but I have not heard anything good about Life Stinks. But
Life Stinks is terrible.
Oh.
I actually wasn't super fond of 12 Chairs either. I don't know. Somehow it didn't hit me right. I don't know. I might even try watching it again someday, but I didn't like it the first time for sure.
I think the first Mel Brooks film I saw was History of the World Part 1. And thought, this is interesting. Then of course I've seen the earlier ones. We've already mentioned the producers, already mentioned Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and it's so funny how I forgot what it's called, the network's called now, but it used to be like the Family Channel or ABC's Family Channel. How they would show Blazing Saddles, I'm like, how in the hell does this work?
How could it possibly be more than like 24 minutes long?
Right.
Because
Right.
How much? Yeah.
once you
So
cut
much.
out the fart jokes and the racism, you don't have
Yeah.
anything left.
There's nothing there.
No.
Well, even Madeline Kahn, some of her stuff, you're just like, you can't, if this is a family channel, no.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, Lily Von
y-
Stupp.
yeah.
What do you think that means, people? Come on.
But silent movie, I love that.
Mm.
And the best joke of the whole film is one that a lot of people wouldn't get. Is that there was actually one word said in the entire film, and it's by Marcel Marceau, which is the greatest mime in history.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the mime actually says something in the entire film, that's
Right. The only line in the movie is spoken by someone
by
who has had a really long and illustrious career as someone who doesn't talk.
right. And that's a great joke right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
High Anxiety, awesome film. It's a spoofing of Hitchcock, and Vertigo in particular, but there's all other types of jokes in there.
And didn't he even consult with Hitchcock on that one to like capture it right, or?
Possibly, it's possible.
Was Hitchcock still around at that point?
I don't know.
77?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, he was. He
Mm.
died in 1980, so yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, it's possible. It's just they're so. These are fun films, and they're so diverse. I mean, they're parodies, yeah, but I mean, they're westerns. There's horror. There's suspense.
Spaceballs, so there's
Spaceballs.
space.
So yeah, I mean, it's
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
And even Robin Hood, so there's medieval.
Mm-hmm. And Dracula.
Yeah. Yep.
So and you mentioned the cast. Oh God, the particular troupe that he always used all the time was so incredible. I already mentioned Madeline Kahn. I mean, we talked about her a couple weeks ago when we did Clue. Oh God, she was always on. She's hard not to laugh at. She was just so incredible. Gene Wilder. You talk about the producers. He was great in that. As the kind of as the accountant who didn't want to take any risk and just played life by the rules. Harvey Korman. Just such an incredible group that always seemed to be up for whenever Mel wanted to do a new film. That helps. Having a great script and then having a talented enough cast to pull it off.
And another thing, to be so Hollywood, he was married to Anne Bancroft.
Bancroft, yep.
Mm-hmm. From 1964 till 2005 when she died.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very weird for Hollywood.
And they starred together in one of the movies, right?
I think in a couple of them. Or no, maybe he put her in a couple of them.
She did she did a little thing in Silent Movie, but they were together in the To Be or Not to Be remake.
To Be or Not to Be.
Which is awesome. I mean, he didn't direct it, and it was a remake, but they were great together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She did a brief cameo in Dracula Dead and Loving It also.
Okay.
Did she?
I only know that because I watched it again recently. Of course.
Of course.
That's one that I find interesting. I find it interesting that it wasn't more successful, to be honest. Then again, I'm kind of the dead-on target audience for that movie. I think if that movie suffered from a problem, it was that it was a very niche parody. But of course, I fall right in the niche, so I thought it was hilarious, and apparently nobody else did. It did not do well.
And that's the last film he's done.
Hmm.
You know, he's kind of devoted to doing Broadway shows off of his films.
Mm-hmm.
Did you three see The Producers musical?
No,
No.
I'll be honest. I've never seen the movie the whole way through.
Ah, okay.
That was another one that I just didn't get into. I think it was a weird timing thing. I just didn't get into it. It's one of those that I've been meaning to go back and watch because I need to. Because, I mean, holy crap, it's got to be good. But there was a time when I tried to watch it and failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a little different compared to some of his other ones, but so I can kind of understand that.
Was that the one that he wanted his name taken off of so people would take it serious?
It was his first movie, so I hope not.
Which one was that?
Are there favorite characters in his movies that you enjoyed?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Wow.
There are so many that you
Right.
can choose from. I mean, you can start with, for me, it's Governor Lepidemain in Blazing Saddles,
Mm-hmm.
as he's at his desk going, work, 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 work. Hello, boys, I missed you last night. That just is a great line.
Yeah, he's actually not in that movie much, but man, does he make an impact.
Yeah. Wow. Think about that.
That's a tough one. I mean, because the tendency on a question like that is to avoid like the main characters,
Yeah.
and
True.
then you got to shuffle through hundreds of smaller parts.
Right.
I mean, it's hard not to go straight to Igor
Yeah.
for starters. I mean,
How about Frau Blucher?
Uh-huh. Yeah, see, you talk about the troupe. Cloris Leachman
Yeah.
did some really, really wild stuff in his movies. Yeah, I think that she was. Yeah, she was in a few there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, her. Oh God, I can't remember the character's name. Her character's name in History of the World. The French woman.
Oh yeah. Well, with the knitting needles, yes.
Yeah.
Madame,
Yeah.
not Lafarge.
Well, I mean, you already mentioned one character from Blazing Saddles. I mean, Hedley Lamar.
That's Headley.
Yes.
It actually is Madame Defarge.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Good job.
Who'd have thunk it?
Got another Harvey Korman round character.
Count the
Count
money.
Monet.
Count the money. Count the money. Deep Monet.
Monet. D. Monet.
Well, before he did Robin Hood, he did When Things Were Rotten, didn't he? Wasn't he the creator on that?
I saw a reference to that, and that's, that I did not see that. Of course, that was when was that?
75.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a reason why I don't remember that.
Because it didn't last very long. Yeah.
Well,
No, that's true.
plus the fact that I was like 4 or 5 at the time, so yeah,
Right.
probably
Yeah,
wasn't watching it.
It aired in 1975.
Yeah, so
Because that was Dick. Oh, what's his name?
Gautier.
Gautier, yes. who was also in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
He was in Get
Yeah.
Smart, too.
Yes, he played Jaime.
Also Bernie Kopel. Also another Get Smart alum.
And the movie I was thinking of was The Elephant Man, that was directed by David Lynch and produced by Mel Brooks. He was
Yes.
afraid
Yeah.
that if he put his name on it, people would expect it a comedy.
A comedy.
And that was not a comedy.
No.
No. So he created a company called Brooks Film, which went on to do The Fly, Francis, 84 Charing Cross Road. So a couple of different films through there, too, that were his more serious.
Yep. I think there are people who would argue that Life Stinks is not a comedy either, but anyway.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mainly because it wasn't funny.
Man, I want to watch this now. I want to see When Things Were Rotten. I definitely would like to check that out.
Very curious.
It was released as DVD in 2013.
13 episodes.
Interesting.
On-demand item exclusively available on Amazon's Create Space. Okay, well, they're probably... Yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Probably.
Sounds like they're going to want a lot of money for that.
Probably. Okay, let me ask you this tough question.
No tough ones. No.
If you had the chance to speak to talk to him, what would you say? Hey, it would be great if you did something like this. What would you love to see him tackle? I mean, he's done a couple of horrors, he's done westerns, he's done sci-fi, he's done suspense. Is there something else that you would think he would probably, you would say, hey, you would really should take a shot at this?
I'm still waiting for History of the World Part 2.
Is that true?
I'm waiting for Jews in Space.
Viking Funeral.
That is tough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
He's pretty much tackled it all but the superhero genre. So maybe Shazam? Write him a few jokes in there?
Yeah, the superhero genre. That would be... Because God knows we hadn't had any good parodies off of that.
Yeah, I don't even think they're trying at this point.
Well, there was like one, but it was crap. So yeah.
I want to see him do a ripoff of Citizen Kane. Just because of how pompous that movie can be at times. It's just, oh my God, it's so ripe for parody. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
But
I
it is also wide open for parody.
Make it something like Citizen Kaminsky.
Oh man, yeah. I think you have to.
Pirates in tights.
Well, he has not done a war movie, has he?
Not that I can think of.
I mean, to be or not to be his closest thing, but he didn't really write or direct it, so.
Right.
I think with him serving, he kind of figured it wasn't,
Yeah, maybe that wasn't funny to him.
Yeah, something he could joke about.
Well, Spielberg tried to do one, or three, or more.
Yeah, Spielberg got ideas about the scope of his movies, I think, somewhere along the line. Mel Brooks never quite hit that. Thank goodness. I mean, the closest he ever got was ripping off Star Wars, honestly. And even then, he waited 10 years before he did it.
Yeah.
Okay, your favorite? Since we're asking tough questions, your favorite.
Uh,
Movie, I would have to say probably the ones that he's known for would either be Blazing Saddles or Young Frankenstein. Leaning more to Young Frankenstein. The goth in me, you know.
See, and the deal, I, it's hard to compare those two movies specifically because
Yeah,
they're very different movies. They're
Yeah.
both
totally.
hilarious for a lot of the same reasons, but they're very different movies.
What's a different laugh,
Yeah,
if that makes sense. But
I
yeah,
mean, I mean, Blazing Saddles is like the other end of the crudeness spectrum from Young Frankenstein, and so I mean, to pick which one is better, uh, I don't know. I mean, as far as just sh- sheer quantity of laughter, I mean, I think Blazing Saddles wins.
Yeah.
But in terms of just an hour and a half long solid parody of something, I mean, yeah, it's hard to go wrong with Young Frankenstein.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying I didn't say what was your best. It's just your favorite. I mean, I think those are two different things.
I mean, my problem is I have about five favorites, but I'm that guy anyway. So
Well, start it up.
We're not the Rolling Stones here, Les.
Well, I was hoping.
I mean, yeah, it's also hard. It's hard to. I mean, it's hard to discount Spaceballs.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my God. I mean, it's
yeah,
because again, I mean, for my money, it's the same deal with. That's why I think the Citizen Kane thing would work so well, is because Star Wars is such a serious, dramatic, exciting thing that it's just wide open for parody, and it, Spaceballs nails it. I mean, across the board.
yeah.
Because he manages to mix in so many other different little things. I mean, he gets John Hurt back to do the alien scene again.
The Alien parody. Yes.
Oh my God,
That was great.
that's awesome. I mean, it has nothing to do with the plot of the movie, but it's one of those. It still works anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, and then as much of a product of its time as it really is, I think Robin Hood Men in Tights is brilliant. I mean, he manages to make fun of, honestly, mostly one version of a movie that's been remade countless times.
Right.
I mean, and he makes fun of the most recent extraordinarily popular version of it while still calling back to other versions. I mean, and then it's also funny as hell. I mean, not only is it a really well crafted parody, it's funny as hell too. And I mean, I commented I'm not gonna add this to the list, but because of my comments earlier about Dracula Dead and Loving It, for me, that thing is hilarious because I am very familiar with what he's parodying, and I think he got kind of literal with it. I think was he mashed up. I mean, he made fun of the Coppola version.
Mhm.
He and he managed to make fun of the Todd Browning version, the Bela Lugosi.
Right.
I mean, Renfield was lifted. I mean, Peter McNichol lifted Renfield straight out of that movie, and then managed to add some fun stuff to it as well. This one, I used the phrase before. This is a really well crafted parody. The problem is that it's not as funny. I mean, there are a lot of funny spots, but it also drags a bit at times. So I kind of get why it wasn't successful, but again, it's my wheelhouse, so I'm biased.
Yeah.
I think it should have done better than it did, but anyway. So it's kind of a favorite, sort of. And again, I'm waiting for History of the World Part 2 because I liked the first one so much.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole breaking it down into essentially sketches. I mean, Mel Brooks doing sketch comedy. I mean, how could you not
Yeah.
want that? Any movie that can make fun of. I'm not sure the best way to say this because I don't know that it was intentional, although it could very well have been. As much as he makes fun of Catholics in that movie,
Yeah.
because not only are you picking on Jesus a little bit, you're also picking on the Spanish Inquisition. Because when I think Spanish Inquisition, I think musical number. I think synchronized swimmers. Torture devices are funny. I mean, come on. Not really. They're not really funny. But that is a scene. I mean, okay, I don't like musicals, but that's an awesome scene. That's just pure Hollywood spectacle. Ripping off the Spanish Inquisition. That's greatness. And that's just one part. That's one tiny part. That's one of the shortest bits in that movie.
I can't pick one. I really can't pick a favorite because I feel I'll be leaving out some of the other ones. So I understand where you're coming from. I mean, we've already talked about Blazing Saddles so much, but just the what the fuck moment right at the end with the fight
At the end?
town, yes, and you start pulling back and you're realizing that yeah, this is on a studio lot in Hollywood, and you're going, and for the next 10 minutes you're just going, what is this?
Yeah, it got a little meta, didn't it?
Yeah. I remember several years ago I was
Piss
sitting
on
and
you, I'm working for Mel Brooks.
I remember several years ago I watched this. I showed it to my parents, and we got to that point, and we're about a minute or so into that whole sequence, and my mom's like, "Okay, I'm lost here." I'm like, "Well, that's kind of the point,
Mm-hmm.
you know."
Very much the point.
It's kind of breaking that fourth wall to the nth degree, I guess.
All right, not to get too technical, but because
Yeah.
I'm not really a technical person as far as movies goes, but I mean, for my money,
Says our editor.
the whole. That's not to say I'm not the tech guy. That's different. I'm not technical when it comes to movies. I don't know. I've never studied film or anything. But for my money, the deal with westerns and the reason why westerns work, back me up here if you want, or shoot me down. Either way, Les. Is that it's a very narrowly focused story most of the time. You're focused on usually some variation of a good guy and a bad guy and some sort of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
How many people are involved in all of those things can vary, but it's usually a small number of people. So we've spent all this time in Blazing Saddles focused on Bart and on Lamar. And honestly, the relationship here is probably between Bart and Jim,
Yeah.
the Waco kid.
Mm-hmm. Our friends call him Jim.
Right. Yeah, my name's Jim, but my friends call me, but everybody calls me Jim. So the only way at that point, if once you've gotten to that point, once you've gotten as far as the story that you're telling, the Western part of the story goes, you can only get so far without just ending it.
Yeah.
So Mel says, well, screw it. Let's take that tiny little story and blow it up and show people what it really looks like for a second, and then we'll make fun of that for a little while. will make fun of the idea that this studio lot has got all of these drastically different things going on, and there's just all these things that people hear about, but they don't ever put them together as all being in this one little place. So we just zoom the camera out to show the whole lot, and then zoom it back in, and chaos ensues. Because chaos is funny. How's that for overanalyzing?
Mm.
And it is hilarious.
It is.
And the idea that they go see the end of their own movie at the end.
Right.
They go in there, and Waco's holding the thing of popcorn, and it cuts back to the screen, and Bart's leaving, and he rides off, and he rides past Waco, who's sitting there with his feet propped up holding the tub of popcorn.
Right.
In the movie.
Yeah, and then they ride out of town to a certain point to where they get off the horses and get into a limo and ride off into the sunset.
Mm-hmm. Into the sunset, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird as hell, but it's genius in its own way.
It is. Well, how about you, Les?
I was looking at the director list he has.
Mm-hmm.
Of those, I'm going to say I find Blazing Saddles the funniest because of the puns. Foremost, the idea that the black man becomes sheriff. His name is Bart, so he is Black Bart. But to me, one of the best movies that he is involved with is the remake of The Producers. He has just a very small portion in it, but unlike Mike, I do enjoy musicals, and this one is pretty fabulous because it stretches the play more than the original movie did. And because of that, I get to see how it became a hit. Of course, the two felons are trying to raise enough money to put on a play that's going to flop first night. And this musical pulls it off. Those are the two that I enjoy most.
Okay. Liz?
Now,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and now for least, I am not a Spaceballs fan.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry. It mentally bogged me down. That's why I was wanting Jews in Space to be made instead.
Jews in Space.
I kind of thought of Spaceballs in a way as sort of Jews in Space, but okay. Jews in Star Wars specifically.
Yeah. And if I wanted a good drama, there would be Elephant Man. For sure.
Okay, Liz?
I gave mine first.
Oh, I think we're talking about least favorite.
Oh, least favorite? I don't know. I guess if I didn't like it, I didn't see it. There's a couple of his I haven't seen.
Well, ask us. We'll tell you whether or not you like it.
I don't think I've seen The Producers or The 12 Chairs. I did see Blazing Saddles. I think I saw High Anxiety. I guess if I had to pick one, it would probably be Mikey's favorite, History of the World. just because with my religious background and that kind of thing, I usually don't watch movies that parody it or, just me.
Okay, in all fairness,
Hmm.
the two scenes that I mentioned are a total of about 8 minutes
Right.
of that movie. That's pretty much all of the making fun of religion.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, the Jesus part is not making fun of religion. It is kind of making fun of Jesus. But you have to see it to understand.
He's kind of the big guy.
Kind
Or
of,
one of the big guys.
but it's more just general irreverence than making fun of.
Yeah. See, as much as I love Mighty Python, I also had to skip The Life of Brian. So, yeah.
Oh God,
Personal convictions.
it's
And I also quit watching Preacher on AMC when they made like Jesus' son was retarded and he had like this orgy and it was like, all right, I love you, Garth, but
oh, come on.
I'm
Don't
done.
The book is called Preacher. Don't tell me you didn't think that was going to get irreverent about religion at some point.
Right, yeah. I mean, to a certain point, like Supernatural. When Supernatural first came out, it was based on, Bible stories and, the trials and tribulations and that kind of thing. I can do that, but like the temptations of Christ and that kind of thing, I've always felt weird watching that kind of stuff. So I can do some of it, and like even some of the comic books that go into the Bible stories. I think after the flood, the Noah story, I loved that. The Goddamned, I loved that too, but it wasn't really blasphemous. So I felt safe. But yeah, that's
You might be surprised at how not blasphemous Life of Brian is.
yeah. I don't know. That's when they preached about it in church.
Yes, it is. And the deal is that the preaching was coming from people who hadn't seen the movie yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I will tell you
What
that
I
right
usually
here and
complain
now.
about you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is usually the case.
Yes. More
And
often
it's not just anything religion. It's just about anything. If there's any complaints about anything, it's like, well, have you seen the film? No. Well then,
How do you know?
Right.
Yeah,
True.
I mean, and we're on a tangent at this point, but
Right.
I mean, the main story of Life of Brian is a guy gets mistaken for the Messiah. He is, because he's not like specifically mistaken for Jesus, but he is accused pretty much against his will every time of being a Messiah himself. It makes fun of the movie makes fun of religion a little bit, but it's mostly making fun of bad religion.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that out there.
Right.
A lot of that out there.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
whether you see it or not is your choice. I'm not.
Yeah.
I will tell you it is a really damn good movie, and it is hilarious. But I am not going to judge you because you don't want to watch it.
Thank you.
Much.
Much. Just silently.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm good at the silent judging thing. I was getting accused of that at work last week, speaking of. But anyway.
What, silently judging or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Apparently, I have looks that I give people at work that they are choosing to interpret as me judging them.
I get in trouble with that. I can close my mouth, but I can't turn off my looks.
Right.
So a lot of times I have that, are you fucking kidding me? Look on my face.
Okay.
I'll tell you, man, I've heard some, whew. And I'm peacemaker, so like I said, sometimes it's just better to give that look and go, oh, really? I think your mom's right.
Yep.
Did you folks see the movie My Favorite Year?
Yes, I love that film.
I've seen pieces of it.
And was that not kind of based on Mel Brooks?
Supposedly, it's based on him from your shows, kind of
Yeah,
as a writer.
Right. It's a fine movie.
Oh, I love it. It's great. I mean, Peter O'Toole's awesome in it.
Yeah.
Peter O'Toole is kind of awesome a lot of the time.
All the time,
So,
yes. A lot of the time, yes. Yeah, if you've not seen it, it's a great. It is about the story of a writer for a weekly show in the 50s, and Peter O'Toole plays a. He was washed up at that point, right? It was a leading star back in the day, and he's nothing but gets drunk all the time and all that. So basically, the lead character, which I think was played by, was it Mark Lynn Baker? This was prior toward Perfect Strangers.
Yes.
Was basically given the task to basically babysit him, try to keep him from getting drunk and fooling around and all that kind of stuff. Make sure he was at rehearsals during the week to get ready for the show. And of course, chaos ensues. So.
I'm not an actor. I'm a movie star.
Right. It's a funny film. Very funny film.
To be honest, it's not that far off of the premise of the Dick Van Dyke Show either. But anyway.
Well, I think Dick Van Dyke was kind of loosely inspired because I believe in the Wikipedia it mentions that Buddy is kind of based off of
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks.
I would believe that.
And of course, that also had Carl Reiner in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Liz brought up his wife, and he and Anne Bancroft had one son? Oh, no. How many? One son. Yes, Max. Mm-hmm. And Max Brooks is well known to us, right?
He is. World War Z.
That's it.
Yep.
And actually, it's funny because the book that he did before World War Z, I believe, was called The Zombie Survival Guide.
That's right.
Which for my money is a better book. But that's mainly because it didn't have a story. It was really just a kind of a list of things to do in case of a zombie apocalypse, which...
It was a survival guide.
Yeah, which I thought was great. I loved it. I enjoyed the hell out of that book. And then I read World War Z after that, which was good, don't get me wrong, but I still like the Zombie Survival Guide better.
Now, something I would like to be brought to the screen is the Young Frankenstein musical, just to see how they handle it. And I look at the musical numbers on Wikipedia, and it's pretty funny. There's a lot of different songs there that I can see being strong for a movie. And I would suspect that he wrote a lot of it, because Brooks has a tendency to do just that. Pick up the pen and write the lyrics.
I would not be surprised, given that he wrote the songs that were in Blazing Saddles.
Yes.
Well, you talk about wanting to see that. I'm seeing something here saying that the musical version will be used as a basis of a live broadcast event on the ABC network in the last quarter of 2020.
You may get your wish.
Yay. I want to see it.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up and take a quick break?
A lot of good movies out there. Go see them if you haven't already.
Mm-hmm.
Watch them all.
Watch them all. All right, and on that note, we'll be right back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Les.
My first pick comes from SourcePoint Press. We discussed this title several weeks ago, or probably several months ago. This is the Complete Shamnabus. This is a comic that ran 6 issues, and in this collection, they iterate the question, do you ever wonder what happens when copyrights run out? In this, Tom Fuller, the writer and artist, takes the public domain comics and rewrites them for comedy. So it states new stories for you, the hip, cynical reader. So I'm in on this, and it's going to be a full collection. So you're looking at probably close to 200 pages.
Cool.
So
Nice.
So you are both hip and cynical, huh?
Oh, I am totally cynical. And my hip needs to be replaced.
Well, it's close enough, right?
All right. Yeah.
1 out of 2 ain't bad.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Liz.
All right. My first pick is out of Zenescope. And believe it or not, it's not some chick kicking ass.
What?
Right? I mean, Zenescope? This one's called Conspiracy, Area 51. I'm not for sure how many of these they're going to do, but they're going to take a look at, I guess, what's supposed to be out there. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. I don't think the government can keep a secret that long, but I have my own theories of Area 51. So this one should be pretty good, but they say it does come with a warning. It says this series may very well change how you look at life as we know it. So, do 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 do. I don't know. You guys think the government's keeping a secret from us?
Nope.
You're like, which one?
They wouldn't keep secrets
No.
from us.
I'm just wanting to make sure they don't track me down.
If you have a cell phone, yeah. Too bad.
Pretty much.
You've been tapped. Yep. So yeah, should be interesting. I like stories like this. It was kind of like that one, what was it, Man in the Woods, where they looked at all the deep conspiracies and guy thought they were real, that all of them were real. And I'm not saying everything weird out there is a conspiracy, but I do believe in aliens. So, I don't know. I'm kind of curious what happened out there myself. I wouldn't storm the gates with guys who have machine guns, though, but hey.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, millions of people liked that page, and 20 of them showed up? So, yeah.
Well, it wasn't so much as a storm as a busy tourist day.
Well, little drizzle.
If that, yeah. Kind of a passing cloud sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, this one actually was on my list too. So I enjoy a good conspiracy theory.
Me too. Especially on things like aliens, which could possibly be true. Like I said, I believe in aliens. Especially now they've got what? A radio signal that's sent out every 16 days to us and they don't know where it's coming from?
Howard Stern.
Right. Somebody go get Tony Stark.
Yeah. Alrighty, Mikey.
Okie dokie. So my first pick is from Dark Horse this week. I am picking a new book called Hidden Society. This is issue number 1. And this is kind of right up my alley. The story here is based in a what you might call a modern fantasy setting. So, like normal, modern, everyday stuff, except with magic and fairies and demons and stuff. And this is the story of a group of friends who are trying to save the world, which, hey, big shock there. But it's always, these things tend to be more fun for characters than they are for story, because the stories, there's not a lot of different stories in these things, but it kind of doesn't matter, because once you get a group of characters in, that's going to make or break your book anyway. So I'm looking forward to this one. It looks like it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was on my radar as well, so yeah. Alrighty, I'm up next, and for my first choice, I'm going with a new book from Vault Comics called Finger Guns. And the premise is about two teenagers who discover that they can manipulate emotions by firing finger guns. Okay. I'm intrigued. I kind of want to see where this goes.
Yeah. I don't know, when I was reading about this, I was thinking of those little kids who got kicked out of school for making little finger guns. I guess they tickled the teacher.
This was on my list too,
Mm-hmm.
and it intrigued me.
Seems neat.
Yeah, definitely a different something different and original, which we're always looking for.
Yep.
Okay, Les.
Choice number 2 is The Flash of Two Worlds from DC Comics. This is a deluxe edition, which includes the Flash stories from 6 issues. This is including the first co-appearance of the Flash. I remember having this comic. It still may be in my box somewhere. But you had the two Flashes running to the aid of a man about to be pummeled by a girder. And this just opened up so many new things for me. Not only did it give us an Earth 2, but it opened the way to Crisis on Infinite Earths and the various stories there. I want this book badly just to look back and see the beautiful work from Carmine Infantino and Murphy Anderson. The stories by John Broome and Gardner Fox are enough to drive me toward it. So, I'm here for this one.
Cool.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, this was on my radar as well, so, yeah. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my second pick, it's coming from Coffin Comics. It's Lady Death Scorched Earth #1. Now, if you are a fan of Kickstarters and you buy a lot of comics from there, this one has had a Kickstarter edition, but it looks like the ones that are in print for the comic book store, it's going to be 2 issues instead of 1, like the Kickstarter was. So I'll have to go back and read again. The reason I picked this one up originally was because Adam Hughes did a 11 by 17 print as one of the backer rewards. Had to have that.
And you just had to have it, of course.
Had to have that one. The only thing that would have made that better, I love Adam Hughes, but I would love to see Scott Campbell draw Lady Death. I would absolutely, I would buy it. I don't care what price tag he put on that.
You wouldn't even have to have the flu, would you?
Yeah, no.
I was about to say
full
it's
mental
completely in
capacity.
red.
But this one's kind of cool. And 20 years ago, her and Atrocity, which is the mother of all abominations, got into a big fight, battle. The battleground was pretty much Earth, and they left it scorched and dead. So 20 years later, this will be set in present day. Lady Death comes back because she hears of the Trinity popping up again. And we get to see it kind of like the Superman thing. You know, after you've destroyed everything, saving humanity, some people are grateful and some people are like, man, you you broke my home, you know. So this one kind of picks up on how she's achieved and if that makes her job of doing away with the Trinity any harder or any easier. So definitely a good read. Like I said, if you're a fan of Lady Death, I really enjoyed this story. Sometimes I think they put out stories by her just to keep her out there, and it's not much of a story. But this one will definitely leave you on the edge of your seat reading. So 2 thumbs up. Highly recommend this one. And it's always cool when you see something make it from Kickstarter in your local comic book store. So must have been pretty well received.
Cool.
That is cool.
Yep. Alrighty, Mikey.
Okie dokie. My second pick is from IDW Publishing. This might not be too surprising, really. I am picking Usagi Yojimbo Color Classics #2. You should also pick up the first one because this is kind of the next part of the same story. But these are essentially reprints of older, early Usagi Yojimbo stories. And this one in particular, this is kind of a continuation. Issue 2 is kind of a continuation from issue 1, which kind of lays out Usagi's training as a samurai. And it's a really fun story, partly because it's fun to see young Usagi Yojimbo, but it's also really fun to see some of San Sakai's early work on these. It's really cool, and these are just good stories all around.
Yep, good choice.
Yep.
Alrighty, for my second choice, I'm going with a mini-series from Dark Horse Comics titled Tomorrow. And the premise is of a Russian computer virus that somehow jumps species and becomes a actual plague, and a virus that wipes out the adult population of the planet. And the story focuses on a young musical prodigy named Oscar, who is separated from his twin sister, and his efforts to reunite with his sister amongst the chaos of after the adult population being wiped out. I like the premise. I just kind of be curious to see how everything unwinds and all.
Sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Here.
in a post-apocalyptic sort of way, but still fun.
Yep. Okay, and our honorable mention this week is...
The honorable mention comes from Clover Press. It is the Spirit 80th Anniversary Celebration, Volume 1. In this, you get the story from Will Eisner of the character the Spirit This is a series that was acknowledged by everyone from Alan Moore to Michael Chabon as one of the most important comic book and comic book creators of all time. This will start with Denny as a detective and what happens to him to become the Spirit and several of his later adventures. I have always been an advocate for this comic, so I've got a feeling that this is going to be a new printing with extras in it.
Cool. Always a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to go wrong with Spirit.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Any special shout-outs this week?
I don't have anything.
No.
Nothing here.
I don't have a special shout-out. I do have a special mention. This episode drops on the 23rd. February 23rd. With this episode, we officially wrap up year 4 of the podcast.
Wow.
I guess there's that.
Yeah. So
That would explain why we're so close to episode 200, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
I think this is 199.
Go figure.
Yes, it is 199. Yes. So it's hard to believe that it just in some ways it seems like yesterday Mike and I had talked about actually doing this, and then there's in some ways it seems like it's been a lot longer than 40 years. So, but we are wrapping up year 4, and we do appreciate all of you that have been along for the ride, whether this is your first episode or this is episode 199 for you. It doesn't matter to us. We do appreciate you taking this journey with us, and we do appreciate your support. So,
What he said.
So hopefully year 5 will be just as fun and as incredible as the previous 4. Yeah. With that, we'll go to our regular shout-outs. First off, I want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of such a great group of shows. We highly recommend that you go check them out. There will be a link in the show notes for you to check out some of our brethren of the network. And of course, we always want you to check out the fine men and women who make up Podern Family on Twitter, who every week retweet and share our episodes. The easiest way for you to check them out is to do a search, hashtag Podern Family, and just scroll through, and whatever catches your attention, click on that link, download the episode, and knock yourselves out. I hope you have a great time listening to all those great shows. I also want to thank Maddie the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. We would highly recommend that you check out their music. We'll have a link in show notes to some of their stuff that they've released. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support and value your feedback. Any comments, questions, complaints, suggestions, observations, what have you, by all means, send them to our way. And there are several ways you can reach out to us. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website and click on the About Us tab, and there's a contact form that you can fill out. We ask you to follow us on social media. I mentioned Facebook earlier, the Fellowship of the Geeks, and of course we'll have our Facebook events for our meetups there as well. We're obviously on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Follow us there as well. If you'd like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_Geek. And I can be found at TomTCGeek. And wherever you download our episodes, it would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review our show. Thank you very much. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening, everybody. We do appreciate the support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,